everyone, welcome back to my channel Kitabe. Today I'm going to be reviewing one of those really enjoyable comic book series that even 7 to 8 year olds can read. You guessed it right, I'm going to be reviewing The Adventures of Tintin, one of the most famous and liked comic book series in history. Written by Georges Prosper Remy, aka Hergé. It follows, as the name suggests, the adventures of a detective and reporter for the newspaper Le Petit Vingt-Septième, translated to English as The Little 20. This 24-book comic book series has won the hearts of people across the globe. Tintin, who also fancies himself as a part-time detective, usually solves unerring mysteries with his dog Snowy, Professor Cuthbert Calculus, and Captain Archibald Haddock, a seafaring man who is a drunkard and loves to smoke, and whose punchline, "Billions of blue blistering barnacles in a thundering typhoon," is known all over the world. He is also occasionally aided by Thomson and Thompson, a duo of clumsy Scotland Yard detectives. In this series, Tintin visits many places to solve mysteries such as the Soviet Russia, Congo, America, Morocco, Egypt, India, Bolivia, Paraguay, Japan, China, Scotland, the Middle East, the fictional nations of Saldavia and San Theodoros, the Arabian kingdom of Kemed, Peru, and Tibet. He is also pictured as the first man to step on the moon and travels through the Red Sea. In the later books, Tintin, Snowy, and Professor Cuthbert Calculus live with Captain Haddock at his ancestral home, Marlinspike Hall. My four most favorite Tintin comics are King Ottokar's Scepter, The Black Island, Tintin in Tibet, and Tintin in America. In King Ottokar's Scepter, Tintin decides to go to the fictional nation of Saldavia with a well-known sigillographer, Professor Hector Alembic. The story is based upon how Tintin goes to Saldavia with someone who he suspects is Professor Alembic's doppelganger. Tintin is soon the lone bird flying against the wind, and after struggling a lot, manages to win the trust of the King of Saldavia, who can only be reinstated as Saldavia's monarchical leader if he presents his scepter to the people in a parade before the ceremony in which Saldavia chooses another leader. To find out how Tintin is quite literally ejected from a moving plane, how he survives and finds out about the plot to stop the king from being reinstated by nefarious means, how he struggles to inform the king about this plot, how the scepter is stolen and how it is recovered, I would advise you to read this book. In the book, The Black Island, Tintin is accused of being a criminal by a man who is knocked out on a train. However, he manages to run away from the duo of Scotland Yard detectives, Thomson and Thompson. He then starts to trail the man who accused him of knocking him out and gets captured and manages to get away from two near-death situations. He finds out that the accuser, J.W. Muller, smuggles forged banknotes using many small aircraft. The criminal's main base is at a place called Black Island, where many men have gone but none have returned. To find out how the twins Thomson and Thompson win an aeronautical competition courtesy of sheer luck, how Tintin busts the criminals and clears his name, and how he saves a killer gorilla named Ranko, I would advise you to read this book. It's going to be one hell of a ride. In the book Tintin in Tibet, one of Tintin's friends, Shang, is a supposed victim of an airplane crash. However, Tintin does not believe so and decides to go to Nepal and rescue his supposedly dead friend, whose plane crashed in the mountains of Nepal. Nobody really believes that Chang is alive, but Captain Haddock, a Sherpa named Thaki, and some porters agree to take Tintin up until the aeroplane crash. They cross perilous jungles and mountains and soon reach the crash site. They find out that Chang indeed did not die in the aeroplane crash, but was the victim of the legendary Yeti. To find out how Tintin and co battle things out till their last breaths, how Chang is rescued, and how the kind monks of a monastery there help them, I would suggest that you read the book. In Tintin in America, her just third book, Tintin, world reporter numero uno, goes to Chicago for a criminal cleanup. He is almost turned into cans of tinted meat, thrown into a lake with dumbbells tied to his feet, captured by Red Indians, almost run down by a train, and almost hung thrice. As you can see, he risks his life on multiple occasions in this book. To find out how he manages to catch two major criminals, Al Capone and Bobby Smiles, how he rescues Snowy from kidnappers, how he finds an oil spring, how he busts the central syndicate of Chicago gangsters, and how he leaves America to a hero's farewell, I would advise you to read this book. If I were to rate this book series on 4 parameters on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, they would be storyline, content, characters, and originality. For storyline, I would like to give 4 stars, as while there are certainly a lot of books with fabulous storylines in this series, there are a few that have neither any continuation nor an enthralling storyline. For content, I would like to give 5 stars, as the content in each book, both fictional and non-fictional, is extremely interesting. Whenever Tintin visits a real country, you can be sure that the content is true, fascinating, and informative. For characters, I would like to give, again, 5 stars, as each and every character has played his or her role so well that you can barely think about anything but them. I never thought I'd say this, but even the villains of the story seem to fascinate you. For originality, I would like to give 4 stars. As while most of the content is Herge's own, I think everybody has heard of the typical detective story. If 4 books are as good as this, just imagine how good the rest of the books would be. That's why I urge you to get the entire series and start reading. This comic book series is great for all ages, but as mentioned before, is best for 8 to 12-year-olds. For now, that's all from Kitabe. And remember, Kitabe before anything else. Happy reading, and I'll see you next time.